This is Right Side Radio. Let's get into it. With less than a month to go until the 2024 elections, Donald Trump's surge in the betting markets is undeniable, showing a lead of 2.4% over Vice President Harris. This marks a significant turn as, unlike in 2016 or 2020, the markets are now favoring him as the clear frontrunner. Today, we're diving into an analysis of the electoral map, using Polymarket's projections to explore state-by-state forecasts, starting with the solidly blue states. States for Harris, we shall first fill in the solid states where Harris or Trump has a 95% chance or more of winning. We now have Washington, Oregon, and California, Colorado, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine's 1st District, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and the Columbian District for Trump. He is quite likely to win. UT, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, all of Nebraska, save its 2nd District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, South Carolina. And so this gives Harris 191 electoral votes and Trump 121. When all the likely states are filled in, Trump is going to easily retake the lead, and now we're going to fill in the states where either Harris or Trump have between a 75 and a 95% chance at winning. These are the likely states, and these are states that are going to be significantly more competitive than the safe states. One candidate will still have a small edge. Hence, we start with the likely blue states for Harris, starting down in New Mexico, where she has a 91.5 probability at winning currently since 2004. This blue state, New Mexico, has not gone red, so it is rather improbable that Harris would lose it. However, New Mexico usually shows a right tendency after a decade or two. Thus, we will witness contested elections. Here, Harris is still the winner for now, though the state became noticeably more competitive shortly before Biden was on pace to drop out, and therefore New Mexico is probably blue on our map. After that, Minnesota Kamala Harris ought to be performing somewhat better here. This is home state of Tim Wells. The sole reason she is performing so brilliantly here, she selected that the governor of the state be her running mate. Hence, she really isn't even doing all that well. Her chances of winning are at 91%, while her odds should be at either 96 or even 97. Minnesota grew to be really competitive. Right before Joe Biden left in mid-July, Kamala Harris became the preferred choice. Once she took control, she most likely won't lose Minnesota solely due of Tim Wells. But in terms of the margins, she will absolutely perform at far worse than Biden in 2020, who won the state 7 points. In New Hampshire and Maine, Harris's performance here has been really poor. She merely has an 89.5% chance of winning the Granite State and an 88.5% chance. These are the betting markets. Thus, Traub has a 12% chance at winning New Hampshire. Outright, you could look at these numbers and say that 88.5 is rather high. But these are the main states that Biden won by almost double-digit margins in 2020. Hence, Paris is not at all significant. She is very certainly the favorites here, and will likely win both of these events, but if she is struggling, it stays like New Hampshire in primary. She will struggle a lot more in the swing states, and if she cannot win the swing states, she has no possibility of winning the election. Thus, for now, New Hampshire and Maine are most likely blue states. Harris should not be in this place. Harris in the 2nd District of Nebraska had a 90 chance of winning, so she is the preferred state. Subsequently, down in Virginia, her chances are an 87.5% in the past election. This state was won by double digits. She should be performing far better, but Virginia is getting really competitive. Her leading in the most recent poll conducted here is merely 3%, 5 points or more. Surely does not define Virginia. Rather, the betting markets are reflecting what has a chance. Virginia will thus be the last likely blue state shown on our map, approaching the likely Trump states. Currently starting in the Midwest, Iowa and Ohio, Trump has a 91.5 chance of winning Iowa and a 92.5 likelihood of winning Ohio. Alaska will also probably be red. In meantime, Trump has a 90% likelihood of winning the state once more, and thereafter in Texas, he is likewise the strong favorite. The former president stands as 85% like to carry the Lone Star State. In 2020, he won it by 6 points, and in 2016 by 9. He will definitely be winning it a third time in 2024. Indeed, Texas is moving leftward generally, but Democrats are not likely to win statewide contests here anytime soon. It's at least 2 or more decades, and by then the Midwest will have evolved. We have already moved sufficiently to the right that the GOP will find it rather consistent. And today, Texas stays a red state in the 2nd district of Major Trump, has an 88% chance of winning. So it's also probably red. And then eventually down in Florida on this map, our final likely state is that the previous president has an 85.5% chance of winning Florida, just isn't competitive anymore today. Trump is on path to win the sunny state by 7 to 10 points. Even though tilt margins in both 2012 and 2016 and just over a tilt margin determine the state, his advantage in Florida is most likely as big as it is in Texas, which has not gone blue since 1976, and truly relates in context R of EST state Florida has been Ron DeSantis upon his re-election in 2022 by about 20 points. Clearly, the presidential campaign is going to be closer, but Trump is definitely the heavy favorite. And so now with the solid and likely states filled in, Harris leads with 226 electoral votes. Trump at 219, and believe it or not, there are no other states where Harris is the favorite. Thus, we will now cover the lean states where Trump as Harris lacks lean states. These are the states where the previous president stands with a 55 to a 75% probability of winning. Our start will be in Arizona. This has become the most conservative of all 7 swing states, in fact, which are the 7 states that still show on this map. And view the probability Trump has almost a 64% chance actually winning a state. He did not even win in the previous election, carried Arizona by 0.3% 4 years ago. But today, Trump is definitely the preferred winner of Arizona. Back off, actually. Ever since the DNC, Harris's odds have only been declining. Today, Trump's odds have skyrocketed to their highest. They have been since Bonin completely withdrew from the contest in mid-July. Thus, turning Arizona would be a quite strong indication for the Trump campaign, as this state is moving left. However, if Trump can buck that tendency and win Arizona, he will definitely be headed toward triumph. Arizona right now is thus leaning AED with Trump as the obvious favorite. Another state, Georgia, went to Biden by a very thin margin in 2020. In fact, it was the closest state of the entire election in 2016. Trump actually won the Peach State by just over 5 points. And today, he is most likely going to win the state by about 2 to 3. Trump has a 63% chance. Like in Arizona, his chances have only been rising since the DNC in mid-August at carrying Georgia. Right now, almost all of the latest surveys show that Trump is the obvious favorite in Georgia, based on essentially all 10 of the past 10 polls. Georgia is clearly headed toward a red turnaround Trump will turn the growing trend toward. The left backwards, and once more, he is rather well on target if Trump can win both Arizona and Georgia, especially by slim margins, early flipping of Arizona. And Georgia would be quite encouraging for the Trump campaign, empowering at North Carolina. Out of the 7 swing states that voted for Trump in both 2016 and 2020, the Tar Heel state is the only one that won by just over 1% and 4 points against Hillary, looking at the chances against spotting. And today he has a 58% at winning the state for a 3rd straight. Indeed, the race is usually becoming more tight. Still, Trump is unquestionably the favorite. Harris is quite unlikely to actually take front stage here. Trump is not performing as well in North Carolina as he is in Arizona and Georgia, just in part because of Mark Robinson, the governor candidate from the GOP, who has been a total disaster. If Trump even gets near to losing North Carolina, it will be because of Robinson, as Trump is the obviously preferred choice. Still, Trump most likely has enough backing to overcome. Whatever Robinson is creating will also be lean red on our map from North Carolina, putting the previous president just 8 electoral votes away from the presidency, and to the state that will get Trump over 270 electoral votes will be the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, where he has roughly a 55% probability at winning. Now these chances do react in real time to current events, so they go up and down all the time. Generally over the past few days, Trump has been averaging at about 55% occasionally, even at 56. We so are not simply going to go by what we have in this precise minute, though normally he has been at around 55%. These chances are going to move back up for Trump in just a few hours. He started behind a few days ago and is now the preferred choice. Thus, in our map, the Keystone State will be lean red, and thus with these states where Trump has an absolute advantage, all of the solid, likely in lean states. Trump crosses 270 electoral votes. Actually, he is at 281, well beyond his required level. Hence, we only have 3 states remaining. These are essentially pure toss-aways, since all of them are tilt states, whereby no contender has a 55% chance or greater of winning. I mean, having a 52% probability against 48, practically no difference exists. Hence, we will begin in Nevada, which has essentially been a statistical tie over the past few weeks. Not that significant of a state. It boasts just 6 electoral votes looking at the odds today here. So that 52.5 Trump at 47.5. It's basically a tie. Trump and Harris have been going back, and thus Nevada is going to be tilt red on the map. There is no realistic scenario whereby either one of the candidates needs Nevada to win the election. In terms of the betting markets, I do personally think the state will support Trump. It's essentially a tie. Hence, when this occurs, I will rely on my own assessment, and hence Trump is on target to get the 6 electoral votes from Nevada that no Republican has won since 2004. And lastly, in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Michigan, these will be 2 tilt states wherever the whole campaign has been conducted in pure free fall in Wisconsin. From 60% just 20 days ago, her odds had decreased to 54. This contest will only get more and more competitive. Trump is most likely going to win Wisconsin, though. Based on the odds, it's basically a draw. My own assessment is that Wisconsin will be tilt red and that Trump is the minor favorite. Then in Wisconsin, actually, the largest change has happened here. Less than 20 days ago on September 25th, Harris had a 68% chance of winning more than 2 and 3 chances in use. Nowadays, we basically have a tie. Harris's chances have dropped dramatically during the past 2 weeks. Presently, Michigan is essentially a pure toss-up based on the odds. However, I personally do view Trump as the very little favorite. Hence, the Harris campaign suffers greatly. She couldn't win any swing state if she failed. Michigan is the most liberal of the 7 battleground states. Hence, if Harris is having trouble here, she essentially has no chance in places like Pennsylvania, Georgia, or Arizona. She must so win if she is to reach 270 electoral votes. Thus, right now, Michigan is a toss-up based on my own personal assessment. Trump is likely to take front stage here in a few more days, based on Polymarket's 2024 election projection. It is a tilt red state ready to vote for Trump. Donald Trump is destined to win the election straightforward without any swing states, but with these states taken into account, he will earn 312 electoral votes for KLA Harris's 226. I really appreciate you guys viewing. To make sure you like, comments, and subscription right now for more material like this approaching the November election.